As your ship, the pride of Neverwinter, limps its way into Kelpie Cove, we flash back to just off the Dragon-Toothed Cliffs, where a storm has blown up with unnatural speed. Tell me how each of you managed to help sail the ship to safety.
I'm taking the wheel. We've got to keep course.
Roll me an athletics check.
I'll try and untie the rope and lower the mainsail.
Okay, sleight of hand check, please.
I'm gonna look ahead to see if I can find safer seas.
That'll be a perception check.
Can I try to predict the winds? I want to know where the hell's this storm is coming from.
Oh, nice. Your choice of nature or arcana, please. We flash forward again to Kelpie Cove, where I would like constitution saving throws from each of you to find out how well you weathered the storm. So what is a flashback? When and how should you use them? And why do I think that they are the coolest addition in your toolkit as Dungeon Master since the invention of how do you want to do this? My name is Rich, this is Renegade Rolls, and let's look at how we can use flashbacks with style in D&D or any TTRPG. Flashbacks are scenes which occur out of sync with the normal flow of the campaign. They're not DM monologues about the history of the world. They always involve the players, though not always their characters. But at their best, flashbacks will be short, cutaway scenes that help the players understand their characters and the wider world more clearly. The best part is that they're not just info dumps. They can be interactive mini-games where the players are still making decisions which affect the world, and they remain always at the heart of the action. If done well, flashbacks can become truly unforgettable. If you want your players to remember the lore of the campaign setting, make them live it. The usual way to impart information to players is for the characters to encounter NPCs, environments, or artifacts, which can then be interrogated. The DM, with a twinkle in their eye, can then info dump about a time of great deeds in the past, in a voice that's like an old wizard. And that's fine. It's the way things have been done in the hobby for a long time, and it might be just right for your table, especially if you know your group aren't as keen on the acting side of the game. But for those of you like me who are running games where your group enjoys playing characters and they actively seek out excuses to roleplay, this video and flashbacks as a tool might be right up your alley. The trouble is, flashbacks aren't just a single thing. There's actually multiple different types, which will work best in different circumstances. Knowing which ones to use when will let you share and develop your world in a variety of ways, using them to heartwarming or devastating effect. First up, the most straightforward flashbacks are group scenes, where the players are transported back in time to play earlier versions of their characters. This could be just a few moments or months or even years, whenever you as DM want to expand on a time which hasn't been given as much attention as you'd like. Often we'll want to start an adventure with the party already knowing each other and having adventured with each other for a while. That avoids the awkward "you meet in a tavern" opening. But once the campaign's up and running, and your players feel like they know their characters a little better, as well as each other's, you can then go back and play out moments that you skipped, when the paths of all of the members of the party first crossed. We flash back to the moment that a young elf came scrambling out of the undergrowth of the Valkyrie forest with a look of desperation on their face.
Help, help, there's someone chasing me. There's something wrong. Something wrong about its eyes.
What? Where? What do you mean?
I don't know. It almost caught me.
A fight at last.
Shh. Get ready. I can hear something coming.
As something crashes in the bushes coming towards you, now would be a great time to roll initiative. Often these scenes can be fun roleplay moments, or, like in this example, you can turn them into combat encounters, which we'll look at in more detail in a bit. You can do a sneaky version of a flashback if you need to get the player characters to a location in a hurry. You can move things along from wherever the characters have got to by using a cut to, like this. We cut ahead to the Mighty Mule Tavern at the end of a long day on the road. After letting the characters chat in the tavern for a while, you can then say we flash back to an encounter on King Constantine's road, where a gnome merchant, Delilah, insisted on giving you free samples of her magical but weird wares. This lets the players have all the fun of a role-playing and shopping scene, and picking up some entertaining magical ailments, but it also has a built-in ending, as everyone knows that the characters made it to the tavern at the end of the day. At any point, you can just say the magic words. We cut back to the tavern to end the shopping scene. For more on this and other aggressive scene editing techniques, I've linked a fantastic blog post by Bully Pulpit, the makers of Fiasco, down in the description. A clever perk of this is that you're actually railroading your players slightly. By already establishing that the characters are at the tavern and then calling out the scene with the gnome as a flashback, the players know that they can't grandfather paradox themselves, changing the timeline, or say,
You know what? I want to go back the way we came.
I found most folks at the table get this just intuitively, but it can be handy to have the phrase, no, this is a flashback, in your back pocket for when they go off the rails. Sometimes you'll want to do a flashback to one character's backstory, or to a time when they were away from the rest of the party. There's no need to try and involve all your players in the scene if it wouldn't make sense in the fiction, but just be aware of the time taken away from the main group. Here's how that went down in a solo game of Daggerheart that we called the Ballad of Eltrut. You can see a stone obelisk standing with runes that you cannot understand. It's rotating very slowly. As you get close to it, it stops turning. The runes change and they move into text that you can read. Your past does not define you. And we flash back to an important scene in the life and times of Eltrut. Where would you like to be in your past?
Please don't leave me.
Eltrut, we've been over this.
What's he got that I don't?
Ambition. He's got something about him which... You're so Eltrut. That's what you...
What do you mean? That's my entire being. You just gestured to all of me and said, this is what's wrong with you.
And that's the problem. Oh, muskrats.
It makes you feel alive, does he? What?
Well, yes, he's got so many things that you don't. He's
What?
people skills. He tidies up after himself. He looks at me. He looks at me, Eltrut.
I look at you. I glance.
You glance. You look at me the way you look at the trash that you're not taking out, and I can't live like this. I can't.
See, I knew it was about the trash. I knew this was about the trash.
We flash back, and you are standing there, and the words "your past does not define you" sort of glow for a moment before going dark.
I'm gonna get my wife back.
A game which has solo flashbacks built into the core of the system is Brindlewood Bay, where you are a group of little old ladies solving crimes in a murder-she-wrote style fashion. A player can use a crown move to turn a failure into a success, but at a cost. The player needs to narrate a scene from their past from a list of deeply personal questions, including narrate a scene showing how you were an imperfect mother. Oof, these are roleplay gold, but very, very personal. If your players are up for it, these scenes can be great to act out with you as the GM playing the other character, or if you have players who would enjoy that support role, you can delegate to them. I made a video all about Brindlewood Bay, which is also linked down in the description. The cool thing about flashbacks is they don't have to involve any of the main player characters at all. If your group are up for the roleplay challenge, you can give them all characters who are wildly different to the main protagonists. This type of flashback doesn't actually have to go back in time at all. You'll see this technique used in movies and comics, where we take a break from the main action with a line like, "Meanwhile, in the Tower of Sorrows." Be warned though that these can be a bit trickier to pull off and can feel jarring for players, as in addition to a new scenario, the players are all taking on different roles. To combat this, use simple tropes where you can, archetypes and cliches, cultists, city guards, townfolks, etc. As your players probably have a good idea on how a bog standard evil cultist might act in any situation. The idea for these characters isn't to be particularly nuanced, just to fill the role of someone who might typically be in the scene. Alternatively, if you have a well-established world with strong NPCs already known to the players, let them take on those roles. You might get a nasty shock though when you find that your players all gleefully start to do impressions of you. As DM, you'll need to steer these kind of scenes carefully, as there is no single player character who would obviously take the lead. So be on the lookout for ways of making the scenario as clear as possible, and to link it in some way to the player character's current situation. The trick with this is to always make the flashback or cutaway to a critical moment. Instead of a ritual that the cult are doing, it's the ritual, which will fundamentally change things for the player's main characters. Meanwhile, in the Tower of Sorrows, we see the cultists of Xandar preparing something foul. Cultist, and I am Abbot Redhood. Come forward, each of you, and prepare to be anointed.
In Xander's name.
Yes, Abbot.
As you command.
With pleasure.
Doesn't that feel better? Stronger, more powerful, like you could take on the world. Now fly, find those that would oppose us and wreak havoc. And we cut back to the battlefield as 4 arcs of purple light come streaking towards you, heroic heroes. And the ground begins to shake. In that situation, I gave myself the role of leader in the scene and very clear small roles for my players. This is one of the few times where you shouldn't be asking, so what do you do? Save that for the main characters that the players know better. There's a chance that a player will act out and try and be smart, instead saying something like,
No, Xander sucks.
It can be annoying, but it doesn't have to derail things completely. And we cut back to the battlefield as 3 arcs of purple light and 1 fireball, screaming in agony, streak across the sky to you heroes, and the ground begins to shake.
By the way, Rich, there is a game mechanic in Starforged that rewards you for doing this. When you start a new session or significant chapter of play, you may spotlight a new danger, opportunity, or insight, and the scene can be hidden from your character's perspective. For example, you may envision a scene where a new faction enters the stage, or how enemies are waiting in ambush for your unsuspecting character. And for this, you are awarded momentum, which could be luck or inspiration in your TTRPG. Also, Rich is shy about doing his own promo, so he hired me instead. Go follow his Patreon, or else you will miss out on a lot of perks, including me, where we talk about the best TTRPGs for new players and new game masters.
Narrative and roleplay heavy flashbacks are cool, but so are combat flashbacks. These can be small-scale skirmishes of street gangs, goblin tribes, or epic battles. Be careful about using combat flashbacks with the main player characters, as character death here or a major change like a grievous injury or a destroyed item can cause discontinuities with the established lore, and it all gets a bit wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey. In the example where the party first met, I'd make sure that whatever the threat in the Valkyrie Forest turned out to be, it wasn't going to be deadly. You can use combat flashbacks to change the tempo of a session. If you found that the game is getting intrigue and investigation heavy, with less fighting than you and your players would like, or if your group are looking to blow off some steam with some player versus player action, try something like this. We flash back to a time before time, when the world was not yet fully made by the gods who walked upon the land. They fought titans, great elemental beings, for control of this domain. Solar, god of the sun.
Sweet.
Tempest, god of storms.
Nice.
Ice titan.
Cool.
Fire titan.
Oh, you're going down.
Character sheets for you, and let's roll for initiative. A scene of this magnitude can have some major world-building implications, and as DM, you need your wits about you. You've also got to be comfortable enough with your improv skills to roll with the punches here. The secret is not to put anything on the table in the flashback that you'd be upset if you had to throw out, and if you've done a load of world-building, it's not nice to have to get rid of it all in a hurry. Sometimes you'll want to do a flashback which is shocking or brutal, to show the power of a foe or the terror it should instill in the player characters. It might not make sense for it to attack the main characters directly at this point in the campaign, so instead you can demonstrate the adversary's seemingly unbeatable strength against a different group of poor, unfortunate souls. We flash back to just last week, on the ramparts of the walls of the great city of Atterberg in the darkest part of the night. Each of you are city guards armed with pikes and crossbows. We have some character sheets.
Hey, Trev. Any idea what's for dinner tonight?
Dunno, Sal. Soup, probably. It's always soup.
Hey, I like soup. Last week we got extra leeks.
Enough of your league worship. We're supposed to be on duty.
As you turn to look out across the plain, there is a low whooshing, a heavy beating of the air, as something massive flies towards you in the night. You're all professional soldiers. I assume you'd raise your crossbows. Roll to hit.
14.
7.
16.
21.
Your arrow hits its mark, and you can see where it's found a gap between those huge scales. But as you watch, an orange glow ignites from deep within the creature's throat. A moment later, blossoming into white flame, which rushes towards you and engulfs you in fire. The pain only lasts a moment, and then nothing. Please give me back your character sheets. We flash forward again to you, our brave adventurers, as you step over the scorched rubble of the once great city of Atterberg. This can be visceral. How often does a player character die in one blow without any chance to escape? This is a scenario to approach with caution, as a change in tone from the rest of the campaign can feel jarring. But if the group is cool with it, the payoff can be brilliant. Your players will almost certainly use their out-of-character knowledge to inform the choices of the main player characters. You've demonstrated what they're up against, so when the showdown with the maybe dragon comes, I didn't actually say it's a dragon by the way, when the showdown comes, your players will be braced for something which will test their characters to their limits. Welcome to Rich's Cozy Corner, where I try and fail to read all of my TTRPGs before buying new ones. You can't see Mythic Bastion land there after I saw that Quinn's Quest review. Don't know what you're talking about. I first heard of flashbacks thanks to Blades in the Dark, where they're used as a tool at the player's disposal. In this system, a flashback might go something like this. The door to Warehouse 13 is guarded, and you see two bruisers sharing a cigarette, hunched under the arch of the door to stay out of the rain. They look big, they look tough, and in no mood whatsoever for any nonsense. What do you do?
I want to flash back to the Black Ribbon Bar last Saturday night where I met Wee Tony. I bought him a bunch of drinks, so he knows me. He won't make a scene. Unless we upset him by saying something bad about cats?
Great. That'll be 2 stress as we flash forward again as you walk up to Wee Tony and the other guard. What do you say? This is such a cool system as part of the game. It allows the players to gain mechanical advantage, and they get agency to affect the world, so making everything feel much more collaborative. But they do have a limitation. They're only incited by the players, and usually to help them make a problem in front of them easier. In Blades in the Dark, they're used as a resource for players, rather than a way for the GM to share information. And while the information that the players add to a flashback in Blades in the Dark can be used to flesh out the world, they're not as guided or as focused as a Dungeon Master-led flashback to particular events that you want your players to understand. Having playtested them at my tables, there are times and scenarios where a flashback is just the wrong choice. While doing flashbacks is a lot of fun, doing it too much will feel arbitrary, and the main story will feel less cohesive. You want the player characters in the campaign to feel like the main characters. Cutting away too much will rob them of the momentum that you're hopefully building with the main story. Don't do in-character roleplay heavy flashbacks too soon. The players need to know their characters first before you can drop them into another strange situation. You'll be better off finding opportunities to build characters in the main timeline over the course of your first few sessions. If you want to do roleplay scenes at the very start of a campaign, for inspiration, look at the opening of Dimension 20 Fantasy High. Those little roleplay montages set the scene perfectly for each of the characters. There might well be a better way of sharing the information that you want to get across. Maybe the old wizard telling you the story will fit your game better. And again, using flashbacks sparingly will only heighten the effect when you do decide to go for it. Flashbacks are a roleplay heavy tool. Your group might be in more of a combat mood. Also, character roleplaying like this is intense. Check in with your players if they're feeling up for it. If it's going to be too much, there are a million other ways to play, all of them valid. As well as the philosophy and psychology, I like to give some actionable advice that you can use at your table tonight. Here is how to make flashbacks awesome. A fundamental piece of wisdom which should live in your head ahead of everything else. At the start of the campaign, or your next session, or even during play, if you know it's going to come up, make sure that your players are cool with the possibility of character death, where they take on the role of NPCs, especially if you have scenes in mind where cruel, sudden, and unfair character death is on the cards. Old school D&D players might be chuckling at this and saying,
I bring 10 character sheets a night in case 9 of them die.
But for games with a more narrative approach, which are more about the character exploration than brutal combat, character death is rare. Playing out in detail those guards' doomed defense of the city against the dragon might go against the grain of the tone and feel that you've established so far in the campaign. Even though it's not their main character, that shock of being someone who is killed can be jarring, especially for folks who enjoy bridging the player-character divide and really feeling like they are living through their adventurer. Basically, flashbacks are the role-playing game equivalent of a narrative grenade. Handle with care. Next, be speedy, in and out and done. Flashbacks are moments to embellish the main story, not to steal the stage for extended periods of time. With that in mind, next, even in personal scenes with just one player, try and involve everyone if you can. We flash back.
Oh.
Here we go. We flash back to the farmhouse on that fateful night. Next, you are watching. You've managed to make it outside from the flames. You hear inside shouts from the rest of the family. They are trapped, they're not getting back in. Family, please. Be as specific as you like. Really put the nails in.
It's on fire! Save us, Nick. My whiskers.
My mom, my pa, my brother. I scramble up the tree as fast as I can, and I'm at the branch, and I'm walking along the branch, and then the window is there, and it's a bit of a jump, but I try anyway. So I run. So yeah. I run / stumble along this branch, and I jump, and I don't quite make it to the window. I make it to the window ledge, and my claws are just hanging there, and I'm trying to scramble up, and there's a part of the roof that is fiery, and it's
maybe a slate falls or something. Yeah.
A slate falls, and it hits me, and we sort of fall to the ground.
They say knocked out at that point, and the flashback ends there. Emily, Jack, and Joseph only had tiny roles to play in this scene, but they were still there, and I'm sure they'll remember that moment much more than if it had just been a flashback between me and Kay. My players in this game were all improv folks, so we're more than happy to jump into new characters at the drop of a hat, but your players might need a bit more of a heads up before giving them brand new characters to play. For flashback scenes which don't involve the player characters, you can still make it personal. It's happening to you. It can be tempting to say, you are the guards in the palace on the night of the assassination. But it's even better to say, you are King Constantine on the night of the assassination. Who do you trust? Always be on the lookout for the people who are in the centre of the action. If you're writing a story and it's not the most interesting thing happening in the world, why aren't you writing that story instead? Sometimes you might want the characters in a flashback to be helpless bystanders at a distance, but bringing them into the action will make scenes much more memorable. Flashbacks can be a lot of fun to improvise, pulling them out of the air if the moment calls for it. But if you're planning on having combat, or scenes where you want your players to embody more nuanced roles than generic guard, cliched cultist, or overdone orc, then be ready with handouts for your players. Cheat sheets on the character's personality are handy for roleplay heavy scenes, maybe redacted versions from your GM's notes. If you're expecting combat that you want your players to be a part of, give them stat blocks. There's no need for full character sheets. In fact, the simpler the better, regardless of the power level of the creature. If you want someone to play the God of Storms and the Ice Titan, don't go giving them full 5e stat blocks with legendary abilities. This is a surefire way for the decision paralysis demon to sneak in and slow to a crawl what should be a quick and cinematic battle. Instead, grab something simple, with minimal attack options. Tell your players that you're multiplying the damage that they roll by 100 if it helps. When doing a flashback to an earlier point in a player character's life, you as Game Master need to make sure that the player in question maintains agency over their character, unless they have explicitly agreed that it's okay for you to take control. I know none of you are like this because you're cool and attractive and watch my YouTube videos all about game mastery, where you then press the like button, you hit subscribe, you leave nice comments on, right? But there is an opportunity for a GM on a power trip to create uncomfortable situations for their players. If you have a player whose paladin character is all about truth and justice, then giving a flashback like, we flash back to the moment that you set fire to the puppy orphanage. Yeah, that's really not cool. Unless it's actually in their backstory as the moment where they learned to mend their ways, just don't do this. If you have a fleshed out character, being told what you did feels icky. A player will quite reasonably say,
My character would never do that, though.
And then we need to take a break and have a whole conversation about it. If a player has a new character that they're exploring, there's more leeway, but keep your flashbacks within the realms of what fits with what the players already know about their characters. As usual, keep checking in with your players. There's nothing to be lost by taking a quick moment to make sure everyone is doing okay. The group dynamics which allow you to do flashbacks need to be strong. The trust that's required is advanced, and it relies on the agreement between everyone on the boundaries in which you play. To come full circle after the flashback, and to borrow from Blades in the Dark, let the actions within the flashback change the reality of the present day. Above the grand altar to Solar, the sun god, you see a fresco depicting the great war between the gods and the titans. You then flash back and play out that battle. If, for example, the gods sustained casualties, when you flash forward to the present day, you can bring details with you. You notice to one side, behind the radiant burst of light from Solar, a spear driven through the heart of the god of storms. This could be used to give even more world-building ammunition. If the god controlling the storms is dead, well, that explains why storms are so wild in this land with no one to control them. Maybe the party can set out to find the god's resting place somewhere in the Great Maelstrom and restore them to power. Doing flashbacks like this early in a campaign can absolutely kickstart your world building, and your players won't just be listening to you dropping lore, they'll be living it. Speaking of which, here is another way of bringing your world building to life, which involves statues with traffic cones on their heads.
Cultists, join me in our sacred chant.
Hopefully that's off-putting enough. I don't know enough Latin.